of me. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. You're the living water, never drying fountain. Comfort and counselor, take complete control. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me.
All right. I'm feeling the spirit this morning. Welcome, everyone, to Unity of Charlotte, and we're delighted to see all of you here. And is there anyone here for the first time that would like to introduce themselves? Any first-timers? Oh, okay. Yes. Would you give us your name, please?
Hello, my name is Blessed Becca.
Hi, Blessed.
I live here in Charlotte. I just wanted to come visit.
Well, we're delighted to have you. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Anyone else, first-timers? Or just want to introduce themselves? That'd be all right, too. And I also want to welcome those on YouTube and Access 21 that are listening in or will be listening in. And we welcome you. We're here at 401 East Ironwood. Welcome you here as well.
Let us prepare to realize our vision and mission that are on the backs of your programs. Music. As you settle into your seats and enter in the atmosphere of meditation, I urge you to take things out of your lap so that you can be as comfortable as possible. On December the 22nd, 1944, General Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander of Allied Forces, issued his order of the day. I call upon every person of all the Allies to rise now to new heights of courage, of resolution, and of effort. Let everyone hold before him a single thought. United in this single thought and determination, and with unshakable faith in the cause for which we fight, we will, with God's help, go forward to our greatest victory. At the end of that day, the Battle of the Bulge had been won by the Allies, and the enemy was in retreat. united in their determination, their intentions, with unshakable faith and courage. This community, this faith community, this spiritual community is centered in love. For this is our weapon of choice. We know humanity awakens to its divinity, embodying and celebrating divinity, diversity, and harmony, while nurturing the earth and all life. We realize and embrace and embody completely the mission of this spiritual community. Unity of Charlotte is a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse community. We empower and support people to transform their lives and transform this planet through teaching and sharing unity principles. United. United in faith, full of the courage that we have stepped into through so many years. We know we have fulfilled this vision and this mission. With great gratitude and love, we know it is so. And so it is.
To thy hands I commit my spirit. Thy will is my will. Heal me at death, so that I may glorify God. Reveal that which needs to be revealed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so that I may glorify God. In which my needs daily bear, so that I may glorify God. Reveals that which needs I commit my spirit, heal that which my needs daily bear, so that I may glorify God.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. In this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Jesus, Lord Jesus, is in this very room. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Jesus, Lord Jesus, is in this very room. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Jesus, Lord Jesus, is in this very room. In this very room. In this very room.
Good morning. I'm Chaplain Chris. I'll be available to pray with you in the prayer room directly across the hallway from Cafe Unity. Today's daily word, compassion. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God. Today's affirmation is one of the 5 basic principles of unity. Embracing these principles defines our purpose as spiritual beings in human form. If fear-based judgments cloud my expanding awareness of spiritual truth, I affirm this principle then. Remind myself of Jesus' words, judge not. Compassion is the spiritual energy that dissolves the negative effects of judgment. When I reflect on the conflicts of the world, I learn from the consequences of judging others. I appreciate the rich diversity of its mortal realm. Without insisting on either superiority or conformity, by making loving choices in my life, I honor and recognize my oneness with all beings. Beloved, let us love one another. Because the love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. John 4:7. Once again, I'm Chaplain Chris. And with this compassion, I share, and I would pray.
I'm indeed honored and pleased to have the opportunity to introduce our speaker for today, Reverend Grace Carcich. Reverend Grace is an ordained interfaith minister, and she specializes, among other things, in pastoral counseling, officiating weddings, public speaking, and she is also a certified life coach. I'm told she has a wicked sense of humor. I'm looking forward to that. And that she brings spiritual teachings alive and gives them modern purpose. Locally, she manages the counseling center in downtown Asheville and is a co-founder of Unity Radiant Light in Providence, Rhode Island, which is the only Unity church in Rhode Island. Of course, where I'm from, Texas, Rhode Island is about as big as a small town. But not to take anything away from that at all. But also my relatives, I'm Italian, so they come from Providence. Actually, they do. But we'll save that for another day. Now, back to our speaker. It always comes back to me. Following she will lead our meditation, and her talk today is entitled Joyfully Embracing the Gift of Surrender. So please join me in a warm Unity of Charlotte welcome to Reverend Grace Carcich. And now our meditation song.
Power and His grace. this place.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We will now get ready for our time of meditation. So if you could please remove everything from your laps and just let your chair comfortably support you. And just release all the trials and tribulations of the week that's gone by and just clear your mind. Just connect to the power of God. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. And today, I surrender. I surrender to the power of God. I open myself to have God's love revealed in, as, and through my life, and I expect great things. Let me surrender my attachment to difficulty and open to see a higher reality. Let me also surrender to the undisturbed calm of my true nature. I surrender my need to be busy. There is a wisdom within me that knows what to do and what to say. I don't need to figure it all out. And I surrender any sense of separation from God. I am, and always have been, living in the very heart of the One, expressing my unique gifts into the world. And I pray a prayer of grace. For thee I thirst. Into thy hands I commit my spirit, my issues, and all unforgiven states. Thy will is my will. Thy will be done through me. Heal me at depth. Reveal that which needs to be healed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so that I can glorify you, God, and live in the fullness of grace. It is truly done. And now I ponder the freedom and gifts in the joy of letting go as I go into the silence. And as I return from the silence, I know that I am free and unlimited. I release old ways of thinking and boldly step out into freedom and truth. And I know and affirm that in surrender there is peace, and in peace there is an openness that I gain. And with being open, all the good that I am worthy to receive comes flowing to me easily and effortlessly. And I thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. So good morning again. It's quite an honor to be here. I've heard such wonderful things about Unity of Charlotte. And Bill, thank you for the introduction. That was great. So as you know, I did co-found Unity Radiant Light in Rhode Island, and I have been in Boston, or just outside Boston, for about, going on 10 years. And I was ordained as a Unity chaplain in 2009. And I was actually on the Unity Minister track when I decided to get off. And I went to One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, and I spent 2 years there in New York City. So I'm kind of a New England person. You know, you might hear me say, "Park the car," or "Where's the chowder?" You know. And he did warn you, I do have a wicked sense of humor, but I sense you all do too. So I would like to start with a joke, if that's okay. Who wants to hear a good joke? All right. Awesome. The light turned yellow just in front of this fella. He did the right thing, of course, and he stopped at the crosswalk, even though he could have beaten the red light by accelerating through the intersection. The tailgating woman behind him was furious, and as she slammed on her brakes and honked her horn and screamed in frustration, all because she missed her chance to go through the intersection. While still in the middle of a rant, she heard a tap on her window, and she looked up to see the face of a very serious police officer. The officer ordered her to exit her car with her hands up and handcuffing her. The officer then drove her to the police station where she was searched, fingerprinted, photographed, and placed in a holding cell. After a couple of hours, another policeman approached her cell and opened the door. She was escorted back to the booking desk where the arresting officer was waiting with her personal effects. And he said to her, "I'm very sorry for the mistake, ma'am. You see, I pulled up behind you, and while behind your car, I saw you blowing your horn and giving the guy in front of you the finger and cursing at him. And I noticed the 'What Would Jesus Do' bumper sticker on the back of your car and the 'Choose Life' license plate holder and the 'Follow Me to Sunday School' bumper sticker. Oh, and also the chrome-plated Christian fish. So naturally, I assumed you had just stolen the car. All right. Now we can talk about surrender. So, sort of what Bill alluded to, surrender is probably not a real popular topic because of all the work involved. It's kind of like up there with tithing. It's like, oh, they're going to talk about tithing on Sunday. I'm not going to church. Okay, so I'm really glad that you all came out because I hope by the end of my talk that you will be fulfilled and energized and even want to take a chance after potluck and come to my workshop where you get more tools about how to successfully surrender. So why do we even want to surrender, right? Well, who wants to suffer? Apparently a lot of us. We surrender because it makes life easier, but sometimes it's a path that takes us a long time to learn and ingrain. So, in fact, what do most of us do when faced with the need to surrender an issue? We dig our heels in more, and we get really stubborn. And why is that? Because we think we know better than God, right? We all do. Might as well admit it. So what comes up for you when you think about surrender? In our culture, it might be a sign of weakness or an act of giving up or a sense of losing or maybe even being a loser, right? Afraid of having a label put on you or maybe having an appearance of failure. And where does this concept come from? It comes from our culture. It comes from our upbringing. It comes from our individual personality and our personal needs and experiences, and maybe even some karma issues. So could we then agree, as humans, and I'm going to use that term a lot today, so bear with me, no disrespect intended, I'm one of them. We don't usually want to be associated with losing, but if we drill down even further, we don't want to lose control. So we resist the concept of surrender. And what happens when we resist, my Unity Truth students, what happens? Persist. Thank you. That which we resist persists. So, in other parts of our society, if we were perhaps maybe with a more conservative church or maybe a fundamental Christian, I'm not picking on them, I'm just looking at vernacular, things that we take from other religions and kind of, shall I say, meld into our philosophy. they might be prone to say, "Thy will be done." A new thought person facing a challenge might say, "Well, everything unfolds in divine right timing," or "There's divine order at hand." But with repetition, I think, of saying these things over and over again, they tend to have no value, and they become meaningless phrases. They become the tiny little Band-Aid that someone tries to put on a gaping wound. And if overly used, are really an ineffective bunch of words. And just as an aside, before I continue, I will just tell you the music that we took today from Richard Medicki has "Thy Will Be Done." And he's a Unity songwriter and performer, and his whole CD is all about "Thy Will Be Done" in Jesus. So there's another slant to it too. So in Unity, we have that aspect in our philosophy as well. So when words are being used over and over again and they have no meaning, at first they may sound really profound, and you might sound really important saying them, and you might give someone comfort for a little while. But by the end, if it hasn't really met your need, your internal need, you're going to feel really empty. And that's why I encourage people to be comfortable with the path of surrender. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, just show of hands. And I also should have told you when I had a wicked sense of humor that I do tend to skip around a lot, but I promise you by the end it'll all make sense, so hang in there with me, okay? All right, so I just wanted to ask a quick question. Do you believe in free will? Okay, that's most of you, right? Okay, good start. So I'm going to tell you about Unity 12 Powers, which I know last year you did, but it's just so synchronistic that I had arranged with Alan to be here and talk today. And August is the month of Will. And Will is the cousin to Surrender, in case you didn't know they were cousins. So August power is Will. So how great that I'm here talking about surrender when it's the month of Will. And the color is silver, but I didn't wear silver. I wore gold. So if you have free will, you can actually choose to believe anything I say or not believe anything I say or nothing that anyone else says, because after all, we're all individuals. And it all revolves around our ego. And the ego is very interesting. It's how we tend to perceive things, which is how we take things in, and then how we react or respond to things, which is what we put out. And it's all an energy vibration. So the concept of free will is really at core here, because I'm going to talk a little bit about Creator, and then you'll see how it all comes together. When our Creator made us, we were given free will. And upon receiving that gift, sometime later, we started to separate from God. We used to feel a part of God, but now we had this independence, and we didn't need God. So as we were out there exercising our free will, we relied on ourselves, and soon this ego developed stronger and stronger. And actually, as a defense mechanism, it didn't start out to be a negative thing. But the ego has a shadow side. And in that shadow side, there's a survival of the fittest kind of modus operandi. Because after all now, we're separated from God. We have to fend for ourselves, right? And in order to do this, the ego constructed lack and fear, just to keep us on our toes. And it also had a very competitive nature. By the way, does anyone here know what the acronym EGO stands for? Thank you, Elaine. Edging God out, EGO, edging God out. So that's what we did. We were exercising our freedom, edging God out. And as we edged God out and always had to be first and always needed to be right and always needed to be in control, we were definitely exercising our free will for sure. But how's that been working out for us? Yeah, that's what I thought. So then it went to another level. It became all about us. And this expanded to be us versus them. And some of us knew that this was wrong, and we longed for the days when we lived as one with the one. So fast forward to now, we're here, in the here and now, right? with a somewhat lower consciousness that still needs to be uplifted. Okay, stay with me. I'm going to do a little movie trivia just to make sure you're listening. Okay, test. How many know the name of the movie that came out about 20 years ago? It was a comedy drama. It had 2 actors as the lead who are now deceased. And it was about these robbers that made their way through this train, and they were caught in the middle of the movie going around saying, "We're bad, we're bad." That's right. We're bad, we're bad. Anybody remember that? Tom.
Richard Pryor and Gene
My man. Give him a hand. Yes, sir. And what was the name of the movie? Okay, so you know now Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder. Anybody know the name of the movie? All right, I'll tell you. It was Silver Streak. So I bring that up as a point of reference just so that you can know Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor, that's us. Because we're going around going, we're bad, we're bad. That's right. Because we're so cool because we don't need God, right? Okay. So our challenge continues even now to look at things from a spiritual perspective and viewpoint, a beneficial one that embraces the gift of surrender. And if we could only understand we're not giving something up, we're giving it back, we're turning it over, however you want to look at it. But what does it all boil down to? In actuality, we're just asking for courage. We're asking for courage and faith and trust and strength in God, to trust in that long haul ahead, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. And tomorrow could be fraught with a lot of no's. You might get some yeses, but sometimes you have to endure some no's before you get to your yeses. And we know when we pray, what do we get? There's only 3 possible answers. This is what I was told anyway. I heard yes, not now, and wait, I have something better for you. It's the waiting that we have a problem with as humans, right? Everything has to be done yesterday in a New York minute. You know, I want to have it your way, right? So we have a real issue. It's the waiting. You know, there was a song, "The waiting is the hardest part." So that's what we're up against. So that's why we need courage and faith and trust and the ability to surrender. Just whatever you do, don't pray to God for patience, because all you'll end up with is a long line in the bank, okay? I'm telling you, don't even go there, okay? So what do we do in the meantime? We're on earth, we're having this human experience, and I'm saying, I'm trusting in you, Lord, or metaphysically, I'm trusting in the law. And what happens? What do we do as humans? What do I do with the other humans? Now, we supposedly have this 5th dimension energy that's come upon us. I'm sure you've all heard some talks about that, read the books, seen the movies, right? And we're supposed to have these DNA downloads that enhance our genetics with the crystalline energy, and I'm still waiting for it. So I take my own personal accountability, my inventory, because I know that's what the Fillmores wanted us to do. And I say, yes, I am accountable. Yes, I have developed patience. Yes, I believe I embody a good vibration. And yes, I believe I have released my ego. And you've all probably done a lot of the same work. However, when we look at the society at large, despite all this 5th dimension energy that's been bestowed upon us, you know, and even sometimes in our own unity communities who are sometimes going through changes, you know, we have to wonder, where is that enhanced evolution species of humans that we're supposed to be at by now, right? So we're faced with some unpleasant things like addictions and drugs and people's sense of victimhood and control issues, which we're going to talk about today. The need for speed. We have opioid overdoses, and we have corruption and prejudice, and the divisiveness that's in this country is really, really hard to take, especially for us advanced souls who don't think in those terms. Right? Right? I mean, there's even a ban on traveling to Missouri, so now things are getting a little out of hand. Okay? When I heard that, I was like, okay, check yourself. This is not correct. So let's just air a little bit of our dirty laundry, and hopefully when we kind of clear away some of the darkness, because they say, the dark has to be dispelled, it has to be exposed before we can get to the light. Well, all right. Maybe you can see some opportunities for surrender in some of the things I'll share with you now. So, the need to be right. Have you ever encountered someone who engaged you in a conversation and no matter what you said, they knew better? Okay. Would a concept like surrender have assisted you at that time? Now, you can listen patiently and don't have to agree with them. And really, there's no crime in acquiescing, but you don't have to acquiesce either. You can just be present in the moment and surrender to the moment and just know, I'm hearing you, I'm holding space for you, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to, let you do your thing. All right? So it's not about selling out or losing your individualism or your authenticity. It is just being able to walk away in peace, right? That's part of surrender. What about the need to be first? I'll share with you a funny story. It wasn't funny at the time, because I love to tell my driving stories, and I love to drive. I love to get in the car, and I'm fine, until I leave the driveway. And then things happen, because I'm seeing other humans. And some of these stories are really funny, and some of them are sad, so bear with me. I was traveling between Asheville and Tennessee, and I was on Route 26 going north, which is actually east, but it could be west because it's not a straight road. But it's also called the 1923, but sometimes the 2570, because if you live in North Carolina, all the roads have to have at least 4 numbers and names on them. Okay, I figured that one out. So I'm in my car, and I'm just minding my own business, probably sitting there, singing a Karen Drucker song or something. And I'm getting on the on-ramp to get onto the expressway, and there's a gentleman in front of me in a minivan, and he gets on before me, and I was like, okay, well, I don't need to be first because I've already released my ego. I don't need to be first. I know it's his term. I know the DOT rules. I'm not going to try and jump in front of him. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for him to get onto the highway, and he's just parked there. He's not going on. Meanwhile, I can see in my rear view mirror all these cars are starting to come from Asheville, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm like half in, half out. What do I do? Take it, dude, and he's not moving. He's like literally parked. I said, okay, maybe the car is not functioning. Maybe he's having a mechanical difficulty. I decided for my own safety, I just can't continue to sit here. So I took it, and as soon as I took it, he pulled out in front of me. Now I'm right on his bumper, and his fist comes out the window, and he's shaking his fist at me violently, and I don't mean just like 1, 2, 3. I mean like shaking it and shaking it and shaking it, and I was like, whoa, what is this about? Where is this rage? Where is this hatred coming from? I don't understand this. So I kind of snugged up behind him, and I just, stayed there, and I said, I'm not passing him, and I'm not making eye contact with him. And I stayed behind him for a couple of exits just to be safe, and I thought to myself, I will follow this man to Canada. I will not pass his car. It is not happening. Okay? And then finally he got off, and I was like, thank you, God. He got off the next exit. And the next thing I wanted to share with you real quick is an addiction to speed. I'm sure you've seen this. This was a little more dangerous. And I was coming back from Charleston. I had a short vacation in South Carolina recently. And I was crossing from Charleston into kind of like the borderline. It started to rain. I mean, out of nowhere, the sky went pitch black. Visibility decreased. It was 60 feet, then 50 feet, 40 feet. I eventually could not see 2 car lengths in front of me, and I had a white pickup truck on my bumper tailgating me, and it was torrential rain. I mean, it was super, super dangerous, and I know he was getting closer and closer because he wanted me to go faster, And I started to go slower because now I could barely see the car that was in front of me. So he decided he was going to pull around me. And as he passed me, he went, let me know that he was not happy with me. And my first impulse, yes, was to give him the finger. I'm sorry. I said, no, you can't do that, Grace, because you are a minister. So pray for him. And I did pray for him, and I said, God bless him. I said, keep him safe, because man is going to hurt himself. I said, just please, 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 please keep him safe. He continued to speed up more and more, and then it was like 3, 2, 1. And he hit this huge flooding puddle on the side of the road, and his truck started to hydroplane. And I could see him bouncing in the water, really having a hard time right-siding it up. And I was just like, oh, God, let him be safe, let him be safe. And eventually, he right-sided it, and he was able to continue. But what I thought about was, wouldn't that have been a time to surrender your need to speed? Because, it's one thing if you want to kill yourself, which I hope you don't do, but do you have to take other people with you? And it was really, really frightening, And the last story that I wanted to share with you was something that happened in Arkansas, and it was very, very tragic. You may have heard about it in the news last Christmas. I was traveling back from Phoenix, and I had to go through Arkansas. And it was funny, you look at signs, like, oh, I've never been there, what's that like? And I said, oh, Little Rock. That's a famous place. Maybe I'll go there sometime. And I get home, and I happen to turn on the news, and it was right before Christmas time, and the story came on. I was really surprised that they talked about it in our local news. Apparently, a grandmother had been out with her 3-year-old grandson, and she was exiting the highway. She was about to take him back to his mom's house, and there was a car coming up behind her, and this gentleman clearly had control issues. She just wasn't driving fast enough for him, so he spun around her, took out a gun, and he shot into her vehicle. And her grandson, Asen King, was killed immediately. She didn't know. She heard the glass shatter, and she didn't know what had happened. She didn't know until she pulled up in her daughter's driveway, and she actually went in the back seat to take him out of his car seat that he had passed. And it's such a senseless loss of life. And ironically enough, the perpetrator in this case did surrender 3 days later, but that didn't bring little Asen back. So, in the end, we don't know if we're going to be given 3 years or 103 years, and we have to do the best with what we've been given in order to glorify God. They say, when they go low, we go high. And I want to know, how do we uplift ourselves? And sometimes it's a simple thing. It's the little things. It's just watching your reactions to things, becoming aware of your response and your reaction before it even happens. And you say, well, how can you do that before it happens? You can. It's spiritual. It's intuitive. It's something you can practice. And once you fine-tune that and really get it honed, that is a gift that you can exercise anywhere that you go. Or if someone's pushing your buttons, you can do this. You can stop, breathe, smile, and say, I now release anything that is unlike God. Stop, breathe, smile. I now release anything that is unlike God. I gave my daughter that tool about a month ago before she went to work one day, and she called me that night, and she told me she was able to use it 3 times on her job site. And she said, Mommy, it works. I said, it works if you use it. So another tool is to remove barriers, and I want to recommend meditation. And again, I know you've probably heard that till the cows come home, but the truth is, if you're meditating now, meditate more, and if you haven't tried it, please start, because when you meditate, you stop thoughts. And when thoughts are stopped, it decreases resistance. And when you're decreasing resistance, you have a much easier path with the road to surrender. And just please realize, there's some folks around us, that we may want to change. Now, red light, right? Control issue, need to surrender. Some folks are so addicted to their ego trauma that they'd rather die than change. And the sooner that we realize that, probably the better off we'll be. And I'll talk more about that in the workshop this afternoon. Actually, I know a lot of these people. They're in my family. Okay. So, being Italian, we have a lot of, shall I say, very, very impassioned folks. So, I just want to wrap up and just tell you that when I suggested at the beginning that we turn it over and we give it back, that is really the goal, to return to our oneness, our sense of oneness with God. No separation from God, being one with the vibration of our source, and know and affirm that surrender brings peace, and in peace we become open, and in our openness we allow the good to flow to us that we richly deserve. So let's embrace the gift of surrender. It is liberating. It is truly a gift. And when we surrender to God, God becomes available to us. And I just wanted to thank you all for being lovely, lovely today. And I'll see you at the potluck and hopefully the workshop. Thank you so much. God bless. Namaste.